Okay, well, thank you very much. Let me see if I can get that out of the way. It's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight, and I really appreciate Clark asking me and being able to share some of my experiences with you all. I am a seasoned athletic trainer. I spent 29 years in a high school setting as a teacher athletic trainer, and then I also had a lot of different experiences outside of the school with, oh my goodness, the biggest one I think is working with U.S. Lacrosse Sports Safety and Science Committee. I was committee chair, co-chair for a while, and then chair for a number of years. And they have just done nothing but expand their sports science. They're an amazing group of people. I got into the public safety setting kind of on a whim. I was looking to retire from the school system. It was time, but I was still looking for something else to do, and happened to have a police lieutenant mention to me that they need an athletic trainer with the police department. I didn't realize that our work on the sidelines of football, basketball games, when we have officers there, that they really were paying attention to what an athletic trainer does. As I go through this, I'll give you a little bit more of my background, but in talking to you all, there we have 3 representatives of COPA here. We've got a gentleman who works with the Carmel Police Department, and we've got a gentleman who's kind of got a lot of different things going on in the background. So I thought I'd give you kind of a collection of what's involved in public safety from the law enforcement side. That's mostly where I was. However, this does translate into fire and rescue as well. So I wanted to put this slide up that employee salaries and wages account for nearly 85% of an agency's budget, but workers' comp is the second highest factor affecting a budget. And this is where we can come in. Employers in all areas want to know how you can keep people from getting hurt and how you can keep people on the job. Because if you can do both of those, you can reduce time loss, backstaffing, which is having to have somebody come in time and a half while you're still paying that injured employee full-time pay. And at the same time, reducing emergency room visits, general medical visits, general concussion assessment visits, concussion retraining visits in a lot of ways, as well as health and nutrition and keeping the officers and firefighters on the job. Officers, when I say officers, I mean police officers, sheriffs, corrections officer, peace officers, anybody dealing with law enforcement and all that. And please feel free to jump in anytime. So the challenges in developing a program that I ran into, well, when I was getting going on this, the challenges I ran into was there were no athletic trainers in public safety at the time, except at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia and in Charleston, South Carolina. But as far as local law enforcement or local public safety, there weren't. So I needed to develop a business plan to make this happen. And fortunately, there are tons of resources out there now. Clark, you've done a presentation that you have up on developing a business plan. And in looking at developing a program, bringing a program on board and having acceptance of the employees to the athletic trainer, and also having the athletic trainer being able to have the resources in order to work with the officers, those are some challenges. So the challenges were to be able to provide that early access. They're not used to that. They're used to going to the emergency room. Well, first of all, anyone injured on duty has to complete an injury report form, or their supervisor does. And that goes, hopefully in this day and age, it's emailed or faxed to the workers' comp adjuster. And that's their entry into the medical system. Then you may, if they don't go to the ER, but they need to see a physician, it could be 3, 4, 5 days, even to a week before they get to see the orthopedist or other specialist. That's time lost, it's injury care time lost. So one of the first challenges is to let them know that the athletic trainer is used to immediate assessment, immediate entry into the healthcare program, healthcare system and get them treated and get on the way to getting them back to work. We also want to reduce medical costs, lost over time. When I came on the work, there's a lady who did, she did patient management for the workers' comp group. And she was employed to track the employee from point of injury until they return. Are they going to their clinical visits? Are they going to rehab? Are they getting their medications? Things like that. And when I came on, she was very concerned that I was going to take her job because I was doing case management as well. But we found out we had different skills to bring to that. And it actually made it better for the employee because I was more aware, being actually in the department, as to where these people were, and we could track them. Because there are employees sometimes, as you know, well, Scott, they get lost. Sometimes they get injured and they get lost, and the supervisors don't know where they are, and they're still off duty. Well, what are they doing? So we're able to better track employees and find out where they were. And then we can advocate for the injured employee, get them back into a position if they're not recovering well, or if they're recovering too well, get them back in so they get back on duty. Advocate for medication, advocate for change for physicians. This just tells us that the spending for, I'm just going to slide through some of these things. One of the questions I am constantly asked is, what kind of special skills did you have to learn to work with public safety, fire and rescue, law enforcement? We have the skills. We've already got them. And primarily the injuries that they incur are musculoskeletal injuries. And then that's our bailiwick. And these are, while these are law enforcement data, I have another data program showing fire and rescue, and it's the same thing. Majority of injuries are musculoskeletal. I did have an interview with a student, one of our practice interviews, and she said, I asked her if she had researched types of injuries in law enforcement. She said, well, they get shot a lot, don't they? It's like, no, we try to avoid that. Just some more data here for that. All right. This is a key thing that I actually used in a presentation to law enforcement, showing that how much they spend on musculoskeletal work-related injuries and indirect costs, and then how much the athlete trainer can save them. And then, so it's just amazing. Let's see, what else? Oh, you've all seen all this already. So what happened is that we were able to reduce medical costs in the training academy by 49%, and 54% overall reduction, 94% musculoskeletal. 54% meaning we had a run of illness for a while, and so we did a lot with getting things cleaned up and taking doing just general health awareness and health maintenance awareness. Also, we had a run with infection. We had some MRSA situations, and we were able to resolve those and prevent those. So that helps. The other thing is that a recruit that's injured in training, and probably Adam, you know this, but if they're injured in training and they cannot train for 3 days, they're dismissed. And that's thousands and thousands of dollars. It costs nearly $75,000 to train a recruit because it's a 6-month training in this case. So you're talking cost of the uniform, cost of the equipment, cost of the salaries for the instructors, and other adjunct costs. So if you're able to keep a recruit able to complete the training, either by working with them, supplementing activities, or by specially strapping and bracing so they can complete safely, then you can save that recruit, and then you're saving the taxpayers that bundle of money. It's huge. Plus the recruit, that's their job they're looking to do. Departmental costs, 2017, if you take a $2 million budget and you reduce that cost by 36%, that's why athlete trainers have jobs. Absolutely. And then we did some other costs with other soft costs. We put in some health awareness programs with a bi-monthly blood pressure check. We did an a health and wellness newsletter, a one-page newsletter that went out once a month with a particular topic on it. There was no concussion program. We put in a concussion awareness program and started working with a group in particular to manage them. So that's just some of the little things that we can bring to the public safety setting. They don't know about us. That's not in their bailiwick. Whereas we know all these things that they have issues with. So it's a good marriage bringing us into their world. If you've got any questions anytime, just let me know. Not reflected in the costs, and these are some of the things that we showed at, again, another presentation on the hourly savings of costs. This was just a hematoma, somebody he got stepped on his great toe and hematoma. The doctor sent him off. Why the ER doctor did not drain that thing, I don't know. But I drained it that day and he went back to work the next day. So if he had to been off for 2 days, that would have cost the agency over $1,000. And so there was no time loss, no nothing. Officer felt fine, went back to work next day. This is a tendon rupture in training. This is a gentleman about 42 years old. And that's the interesting thing you find out with public safety is that you have an active population that's been active all their life. And now you've got some minor shreddings of things in the ACL and patellar tendon, rotator cuff, Achilles tendon. And you will see a lot of these things happen simply because they go on. They're active. So post-injury care by the AT, the PT, no PT was involved with this at all. And he did great. He really did great. 2 months earlier projected by the physician, he went back to work and he had a full physical and functional assessment before he went back to work. And over $16,000 savings. So that, again, that's why athletic trainers are valuable. We can keep them in there on the job. A lot of people want to know, how does this model work? Well, it's very similar to the athletic model. You've got your medical supervisors. You've got your supervisor, like your athletic director. Your coaches and athletes are like your supervisors, sworn civilian employees and recruits. I mean, all I did was take just the athletic model and move it in a different setting, and it worked.
Hey, Nancy, it's Scott. How did you set up your physician network, or was that already established by the department?
The physician network?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing, they already had the workers' compensation panel of physicians. So they already had that. And if any, as you all know, if anyone's injured, then they need to be treated by somebody that's on that panel. Most of them are orthopedists, as well as an occupational medicine doctor, and probably an epidemiologist at this point. So what I did is, when I found out I was going to be hired, I put together a one-page letter of introduction with a business card, and then a brochure that I had developed that, I don't have one here. Anyways, just a brochure that listed the definition of athletic training, the domains, the care that can be given. And then I asked to meet with them. So I sent that out, and then I called and asked for a meeting and met with all the physicians on the panel for about 10 minutes. And, and also I took a copy of my license from Virginia and my certification and my NPI number. That actually is quite helpful in this setting, this non-traditional setting.
Sure.
So, and so then I worked out a system with the doctors that when a patient was traveling to them, I would send my one-page evaluation sheet of what I had seen for clinical eval with all the different testings and everything there, sent that to them. with a second page for them to fill out, that what kind of care they wanted me to do. You know, what kind of modalities they want me to do, what kind of, as far as, you know, passive, active motion, all, you know, just a list of about 10 things, generically 10 things, and then any comments. And I sent that to them. Some of the physicians we established a great rapport with, and one or two would rather use the physical therapist on the panel of physicians list. Then if I had an employee that had gone through everything, I thought they were fully able to return to work and knowing what the requirements are for that job being active, I would send them through a battery of different tests. I would send the physician, again, I would send out this, the employee can do this, 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 this. Then I would write a little paragraph or two of the functional testing that we did. And then I would, then down at the bottom, I would have recommend return to full duty, recommend X weeks of continued care, or recommend no return at this time. And I found that the physicians actually like that many of them don't realize really what the activities of fire and rescue are. They don't realize how much these folks are lifting or pushing, or and the weight of the equipment that they're carrying on their body. So that I found that very helpful. And the physicians love that interaction, that communication back and forth.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep. That's great. We had we had an office of the medical director. Not everybody has that. But you do have somebody in it that works as a physician with your department in one way or another. Again, this is just one way of the relationships going.
So do they become your supervising physician? I know in Indiana, we would have to have a supervising physician of record.
Yep.
That medical director, that panel became your supervising physician.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the first time when we did that, the first time the doctor's like, yeah, sure. I'm not sure what you're going to be doing, but go for it.
Sure.
And then I would send a monthly generic report of activities to him and to two other commanders who were supervisors. And it was great. I had 3 different supervisors, so nobody really knew what I was doing. It was great. But I found you have to keep it informed. But they appreciated knowing what was going on. And then not long after the program got started, I invited him over to see actually what really was going on. And he became quite an advocate for that.
Great.
Yeah.
One thing that I've realized locally here, and for everyone that doesn't know, Scott and I are from the same town. So, and my husband's a county officer, so I can chat with quite a few people.
Mm-hmm.
But the people that are actually working with the officers, so like the sheriff and even some of the county commissioners, they don't really know who their medical board is for their work comp. Mm-hmm. Like they've really got no idea. So what I've realized is I have to talk to the actual provider of that work comp insurance to even figure that out. And I've been emailing back and forth lately, and it seems like it's a physician that's not even around here that's reviewing most of this stuff. And then if we have to actually have an officer seen by somebody, they just choose someone local that's in the network of that insurance that's being provided. So, and we've got a local surgeon in town that usually takes care of all the work comp claims for them, but he doesn't necessarily know what's going on the work comp claim side or how things are handled in the actual county. So it makes it a little complicated. And maybe this is a common thing in more rural areas like ours and smaller departments. You know, you would have to have a medical director to be in a lot of departments to make it worth their time for the size that we are here. So maybe that's a common thing, but it does make it a little bit more complicated than what I'm assuming you're presenting here today, or like how you did it with a bigger department. But it's just another tidbit, you know, if there's people out there that are trying to get in smaller departments, maybe starting at the actual insurance provider is the way to go.
Sure. And I also, who's billing? Who in the department is paying people for this thing? Because the billing people should know where that money's going to. They should. So you raise a couple really good points. The first one is, yes, every area is different. This was a large county program, but nowhere near as big as LA or Denver or Dallas or New York City. One of the things I found out by traveling to different groups is in fire and rescue and public safety is that there are physicians who volunteer their time with departments a lot of times. That could be your supervising physician. And as long as they have a formal relationship as a volunteer, that could be your supervising physician. And but you're right. I found myself, and I think athletic trainers are, I found myself as an advocate for the employee to wade through the workers' comp quagmire. And it really is, isn't it? So anything I could do to get them, first thing is to get them proper treatment and then start the process for care. But to help them get through that quagmire, because sometimes you have the adjuster for workers' comp who's like, oh, we can sit on this for 3 or 4 days. It's like, no, we can't. We need to get this person in to see somebody right away. Yeah. It's not
and that's what the sheriff wants to hear, right? Like that's what the sheriff wants to hear, but the actual decision makers don't necessarily care as much about that. So it really is like the advocacy piece is very important. And I've realized just getting people in your corner that support the idea and support all of the benefits for the officers. That's really what I've started to realize is making a difference. And then even for me, I'm trying to just provide it to county-wide because our department's small. So I'm saying, well, work comp program is not just for the officers of the county, it's for all county employees. So why don't we make this a bigger thing?
Yeah. Well, and money talks. Showing them the breakdown of cost savings, that money talks. Somebody, and it's just hard. I mean, I have to say all the planets lined up. I was at the right place at the right time. But when we met with the chief, and I had the support of human resources because they saw how it worked in the school system. And we went in the chief's office, and I actually knew the chief. He lived in my neighborhood. But I walked in the door and he said, you had me on the idea of it, but show me how it saves us money. If it doesn't save us money, then Nancy, it's just not going to work. Show me how it'll do that. And we were able to show that. It's not an easy thing, but it can be done. And so for me, it took me well over a year to get it to really get active. And I know some people it's taken a little longer. The Dina down in Texas, it took her a little longer, almost 2 years to get hers going. So it's not easy.
And something I'm battling against here too is there's not very good bookkeeping retrospectively to compare, what we would be making here. And that's across all the settings I'm in. Like if they're not tracking how much their injuries have been costing them, for the past 3 years, then I have no number to go off of and be like, well, I could have intervened here and saved this amount of money. I could have intervened here and saved this amount of money. It's all just a good idea if you don't have numbers to even compare to. So I think that would be another battle I'm facing in the public safety realm here.
Somebody does annual reports. They have to. Somebody's doing annual reports that has all those numbers. And they should be public record.
Yeah, it's not. I guess I'm wanting it to be a nice, pretty package that I have it like it's not itemized where I can go in and say I can intervene here, here, and here, and here. It's all grouped into one big. This is a work comp claim, not necessarily this was a specific thing here and there.
Yeah. Well, you've got so much going on. I can understand why you want to do that, but there's nothing wrong with using somebody else's numbers. And just showing them the general idea. You can do that. Let's see, what do we got here? So to get the program going, we had to get the approval of the county attorney for liability, risk management, human resources. They had to create under jobs, they had to create a new job category for athletic trainer. Partnering with a third-party administrator, which is, the insurance company, and then the physician. So again, these are all tasks that had to be dealt with. I did not deal with the county attorney. That we left to one of the commanders with the police department, because they knew the better wordings and things. Department support was across the board once we got going. I'll tell you what, though, for my first 3 or 4 months, it was just like the new athletic trainer on the football with a new brand new football coach. Don't go see the trainer. They're going to pull you out of the game. They're going to pull you out of practice. They're going to keep you out. Don't go see them. And we had to get over that hurdle. So some things don't change no matter where you are. This is another thing that I used and other people have used to help support getting care quickly within a timeline of getting these people back on duty. I think you all know what restricted duty means, but just in case you're not familiar with that term, it means that anybody, fire and rescue or police or law enforcement, anyone who's injured is on restricted duty. They cannot dress in uniform. They cannot wear their badge. They cannot act in any capacity as EMS or firefighter or law enforcement. A lot of times, different groups will have these people not come to the office. But they have found that if you get these people who are on restricted duty back into the station, that they're more eager than to come back to work. But if you let them stay home, and they get, especially if there's a new baby, it gets harder for that employee to come back to work. So this is a quite an interesting stat that we use. And again, as athletic trainers, if I had somebody that was injured, I would call that employee. Hi, this is Nancy. Just call and check on you. How are you doing? I'm doing fine. Have you seen the doctor? Yes. Do you mind? And because I was an employee also, they could share with me. It wasn't a HIPAA violation. And then we would talk about what they're doing, how it's progressing. When their next appointment is, when are they coming back into their duty station, and just check up on them and see how they're doing. But that contact also helps with keeping them, because that's some things that coaches do on some cases and athletic trainers do in the collegiate level, high school level, but it is not something that employers do for their employees, is check up and see how the employee is doing. And that's a huge thing that makes the employee feel like they're a valuable person. These are just some of the things I did at the beginning as far as establishing things. And if this isn't helpful for you, let me know if you've got any other questions, because I can, move on. Here's what we believed: early intervention. We expected them to recover, and everything was function oriented. So everything we did had a reason to do it, function to do it. So here's the task, daily tasks, the assessment, the care. One of the things that physical therapists is their downfall. It's not a downfall per se, but it's all appointment based. Whereas I was able to do appointment or walk in. And the other thing the department let me do was work with the employees who are injured off duty, at home, as well as on duty. And for those physicians, I worked with their personal physician, and we filled out I gave the employee a HIPAA form, and they signed it and took the physician, and then we were good to go to communicate back and forth. But they did that because, again, getting the employee back to work is the important thing. I picked up quite a few patients for rehab from PT clinics, because if they couldn't make the PT clinic appointment because they got held over at court, or they got held over on a job or something, then they were charged, and then they may not be able to get another appointment for a week or two after that. So that's where I got a lot of referrals from them. Let's see. One of the things I found there when I got there was that you have specialty units, and they just kind of go out and do their training, and they don't look at safety for their training as much. And so after one of them was injured, blew his ACL, I went out and looked at their training area. It's like, okay, we need to fill in a lot of holes here. We need to do this and that. So we developed, after that, a safety training matrix for all the special units, Marine Patrol, K9, SWAT, whatever it was. Now I realized that in smaller areas, you will have 10 police officers. Like if you're in Pennsylvania and you're in one of those little townships, you may have, and why they have their own police department, I don't know. But anyway, it just seems like a huge expense. But you got 10 officers. What you're going to have a combination. You're going to collaborate with other townships to get K9 and SWAT. But that doesn't mean that the athletic trainer with one area can't go help them out as well. And the big thing was 24/7 access by cell or email. And I had to push for a cell phone. I didn't want them using my personal phone. And they told me I had to turn it off when I left for the day. And it's like, athletic trainers, we don't do that, you know? So, but the reason was that if you have your cell phone on, then you're considered to be still working. And they didn't want to pay for 24 hours of working. I thought it'd been great, but they didn't want to do that. So we worked out a deal that if I was called by an employee who needed recommendations, advice, or referral, or whatever they needed, I would log in that call, and every 15-minute increment, I was able to put on my timesheet, and they would pay me for that. Never got that in a high school setting, never. And that, go for that, Ryan. You know, go for that. That's anyway. But they did. They were good. So the resources that we needed to get this program going. Obviously, the salary was fair. Quite fair based on my experience and my certification and my education. Obviously expendable and supplies and maintenance and certification for, I had a stim and ultrasound unit and a cold therapy unit, a cold light therapy unit. And that was great. Software for injury surveillance. And also, they did pay for my CEUs. So if I need to go to a state, district, or national meeting to get my CEUs, they did pay for that because they paid for their own employees to do that as well. So how we covered it. In law enforcement is some cool thing called seized asset funds. So if they seize drug money or drug cars or anything like that, they sell them and that money goes back to the department, and it has to be used for the benefit of the department. So like the chief can't just get a brand new car, it has to be used for the whole department. So that's how I received an ice machine and cabinets. We had a donation from a local hospital, which was $3,000 to help us get started to fund supplies. We had some furniture donations from a couple places. And then, believe it or not, a donation from the county, which was, they wanted to help do something. So they helped pay for a piece of equipment. And then that helped save the county some money. But seized assets doesn't apply to the fire department, but hey, you know, it's an advantage. Outcomes, employee morale was definitely improved. They felt they had their own personal person they could call for a lot of things, a trusted employee. The department medical costs, $1 spent, $8 return. Brandy, that's another thing you can use on your, because usually it's 1 to 5, but we were able to show 1 to 8. And you can reduce backstaffing costs or, you know, filling in for the injured employee. The employee had I would get calls at random times of the day for all kinds of things, even for the family. Who do you think I should go for? My child who's got this and that. And I would never give one doctor. I would always give 2 or 3 because we have to do that. And the other thing, it was a significant benefit for the employees because for the non-work people, they did not have to pay copay. And so if they're paying $20 to $40, even $50 now for copay, and I want to see them 4 times a week, I can do that with just getting them there. Whereas with if they have to go to a therapy clinic, first of all, $200 out of pocket in a week is a lot of money. So that became a significant benefit for the employee. Plus, we saw a significant return early to work for that.
Hey, Nancy,
Yeah.
I want to jump in. We've got about 10 minutes left in our hour, and great information. I kind of wanted to give you a chance to catch your breath and see if anybody else on the call has some specific questions, things that have been kind of ticklers, or anything to share from your experiences.
Sure. Bring them to me.
Nancy, this is Ryan. I got a kind of a general question, and I certainly ask kind of everybody on these with my new role. Just what are some things, you've obviously talked about how to get things up and running with a with a public safety athletic training program. We've got somebody on here like Adam who's only been doing that in that setting for a year. It's still, an emerging setting. What are some areas or some things that, that need to, that should be focused on in terms of practice advancement in that area, or some things that still could be, on the horizon to look to improve in the public safety setting and athletic training?
Okay. Let's see. This is a setting with fire and rescue that and police that we in general need to get the word out to fire and rescue and law enforcement that we exist. So that's one of the things, is to go to your they have state meetings, they have district meetings, to be able to go to them and inform them about this. One of the areas I think that we're weak in, although some of the universities are starting to do some activities with this, is research on some of the injuries and equipment that people wear. We were talking about fire helmets not long ago, and yet how much lighter weight and more ergonomic are European and Australian firefighter helmets, but the firefighters in the States don't wear them because they don't look as cool. They don't have the history. I know, but that's it. Focusing on practice management is to constantly be advertising what you're doing, constantly be advertising it. Handing out your business card with to everything you can do. Everybody you meet, having your name on your door. I know it sounds dumb, but putting your name out in the door with your credentials, putting your schedule up on the door so everybody can see what it is. Putting your certification and your license on the wall, putting your diploma on the wall, having those things constantly demonstrate the difference between you and a PT. It's AT, not PT. You're an athletic trainer, not a physical therapist. It's athletic training, not physical therapy. And the populations you deal with. In terms of practice, and probably you've done this already, Adam, but going out with your employees and trying on their equipment, using their equipment, getting in the cars, driving the cars, going on ride-alongs, whether it's a ambulance or fire truck, get into their work area, get into their moving desk, if you will, find out exactly what's going on. We found a number of people ending up with some carpal tunnel because they changed the arrangement of the computer in the cruiser. So they're constantly in flexion, all the time in flexion. So we found that out. But getting out and doing that, and plus it can be fun sometimes. And doing that. Am I answering your question, Ryan? There's so many ways you can go with this.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Adam? Can't hear you, Adam. Can't hear you. Sorry. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever let them tase you?
I have been asked, and I kindly declined. However,
I did it.
you did. You're a brave man. No, I figured, as a woman of somewhat I was old enough to be their mother, some of their grandmother. I thought, nah, they don't need to have that memory in their world. However, the OC spray, the pepper spray,
Yeah.
we were outside one time and the wind changed and I got a full face full of that. I couldn't get my shirt up fast enough to get out of the way. So that was fun. Not.
Yeah. I will tell you that I agree wholeheartedly with a lot of everything you said about embedding yourself in the department. And I had this thing where I started, like, I felt like I had to be somebody different. I just needed to be me and just practice and being an athletic trainer, just like I was if I was covering football or whatever. But, you talked a lot about one of the things I've noticed in the 14 months that I've been there is, and I've had numerous officers tell me this too, is when they are hurt and it is a work-related injury, the care that they get afterwards and just the speed of how it goes is so much better. And I'll just give you an example. Last week, we had an officer do a canine track for training who tore his medial meniscus. And so that happened on a Tuesday. Wednesday, he calls me and says, hey, can you come look at my knee for me? He says, sure. So he came up to my office and I said, yeah, I think this is this. And the way our work comp process works is you got to go to our city clinic or what we call that first right away. So I had to send him over there, but I call them and I say, hey, this is what I think it is. And so that's just the starting process. They ordered the MRI. By Friday, he's in seeing our surgeon, and then he had surgery yesterday. So in about a week or so, he's already gone through everything and has had surgery.
Yeah.
Whereas in the old work comp process that they would have had before, it may have taken him 4 weeks to even get in on the surgery table or even to be seen by that point in time.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just a story of many that have really has changed the way that they do things at Carmel and everything. And so that's been a big plus for them and a learning experience for me, obviously, too. So
yeah. And a lot of that's because of relationship that you already established. I was before COVID, I was at a major city in Oklahoma, and they were getting ready to hire one athletic trainer. And the deputy mayor thought it was going to go so well that they were looking to hire 2 more in a year. And the physician that headed the workers' comp clinic, like you say, it's a city clinic, so that everybody injured had to go see them first. He was the most hesitant about bringing an athletic trainer on because it would get in his world, and we get real territorial. And once we had some side conversations with him, but no, it's the athletic trainer's not making the decision. You're still making the decision. We're just going to give you more information to work from when you get this person. So they'll be a step ahead. And so by the time we were done with those 2 days, he was an advocate. But you're right. You have to establish that relationship ahead of time. And you'll be hired before you ever do that. That's an ongoing process. But it means so much to the employee that you've done that for them and you're looking for them, taking care of them. And it's not a hard sell once they see that.
I would say too, and you probably have dealt with this, and it's just like sports. They don't want they don't want their bosses to, is it okay to come see you? Is it okay? And I found with, just like you said, our light duty, because it's become part of their light duty day is when they're in the building, is they come up and see me every single day. And and at first they're kind of like, am I allowed to do this? And it's like, yes, absolutely, you're allowed to do this. It's part of their day is to come up, because the more they come and see me and we do things, the quicker they're going to get back to the road. And obviously that's a cost savings for everybody. So, and it's better for the officer mentally too.
Yeah. And the longer you're there, you're going to have their supervisors sending them to you.
Yeah, exactly. Or, and as our night shift, because people aren't around, it's having to learn that you don't have to necessarily send them to the emergency room if somebody sustains like a sprained ankle or something. Take their sick time that they need to, tell them to go home, but they need to follow up with me the next day, and it's a much better process that way. So
yeah. So one more comment about workers' comp, but I know we're running on the time here, right, Clark. We worked out a thing with workers' comp. If I'm in a football field, I see somebody getting injured, but if I'm working with public safety, I don't know what's happening out there because of all the shifts, and plus I'm not there at every station. So we worked out a way that when the injury report is filed, they click the button to send it to the workers' comp adjuster. It also comes to me. And then when I get it, I follow up with, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? Have you seen a doctor? oh, no, I don't need to go. All right, come see me. If you're not going to see the doctor, you come see me and let me just do another assessment. So it worked out that if somebody was injured, well, after, it took about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, but I would either get that, or the officer would call me, or their supervisor would call me. So once they get used to having the athletic trainer there, who they know is their advocate and know is their caretaker, you'll be used. You'll be used. You'll be contacted. This is fun. I know I haven't, it's not easy to do this. It can be done. Everybody's got different size communities and different size departments. Just start small and then expand it. Let me, if I can help, I'll be happy to come talk to anybody, or, or Zoom with anybody. If you're running a difficulty, I'd be happy to do that.
I do have one little plug. You mentioned research, and I actually have IRB approval for a movement research study within law enforcement that I'm going to be starting with county, and utilizing the FMS, but basically scripting studies that have been done in Australia. I'm curious to see how that compares. But right now I have 7 participants signed up from our small little department. So Adam, this is my plug for you. If you don't mind connecting with me, maybe we can get some participants from, the officers that you're connected with. I do have a classmate from Maryland who's helping me out as well. But basically I'm going to be getting video footage of FMS with equipment on, and then FMS without equipment. They're going to be a t-shirt and shorts. And then I'm going to have, I'm trying to find 2 more people that are FMS certified to be the reviewers of that. And then we'll talk about the scores and whatnot. But basically that's what they've done in Australia to kind of compare, how is movement affected? And then maybe we can move on to injury surveillance past that. So that's kind of where I'm starting. So I wanted to make sure I got that in after you mentioned research.
Well, I already do something very similar to that too. So I've got FMS on several officers already, some in uniform, some in out of uniform. So I usually try, like all of our new hires, I usually try to do an initial screen for them.
Love it.
To get some data on how their body moves without uniform on and everything. And we go through some corrective stuff if it's needed. So
Awesome.
Publish. Get this out in the NATA. Get that out in the police chief magazine is looking for stuff like this. So is the fire chief. They're all looking for stuff like that. Are you all doing duty belts with everything on it, or are you doing the tactical vest as well, the load bearing vest?
we do the belts. We have belts. So they want to go to the Molly system, but they're not. Department's not quite ready to make that jump yet, but most of ours are with the belts.
There's plus and minuses on that.
Yeah. Our counties with duty belts, and our city is kind of a mix. They can kind of choose how they want to carry, if they want to have vest carriage or duty belt. But that's another thing too. I'm going to take a full inventory of what they're wearing, what it weighs, everything they've got. I'm weighing their boots and looking at the brand of boots. County doesn't get to choose what type of boots is provided to them, whereas city gets to purchase their own. So there's all these variables that, you have to control, but at the same time need to look at.
Yeah, you're right. You can only do so much, but it kills me that that Australia and New Zealand are the leading research people, and here in the United States, that we're not doing that. So we did find that a Sig Sauer loaded is 1.25 pounds, and a Glock was 1.75. So if that helps you.
Yeah, and I'm curious to compare that too. Like, we're gonna weigh, we're weighing all of their stuff. It's gonna be a pretty hefty thing.
I wish I still had that. I'd send it to you, because we did that years ago. But it's just anyway. But yeah, it's great. Good. Posture is hugely important with them, as well as core strength, and that'll solve most of their low back problems with a dude belt.
Hip mobility is also really bad.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yes. Well, and it's like there's I don't know about you all, but in our area, most of them are on cruisers 11 hours a day. So they end up over time with short hamstrings, And then they wonder again why their back hurts. So it's all relative, but we have so much we can bring to this setting, so much. And that's why if we can get people speaking at different conferences about these kind of things and bringing this information out, having the AT right next to that and has commonality of language with them, it really is important. It really is great. This is my contact information if you want it, and you can screenshot it if you want. And Anna Sidori's now at Fairfax County, and she does a tremendous job there as well.
Hey, Nancy, it's not showing up on the screen. So we've been looking at the same slide 18, through the entire presentation. There
we go. Let's try this.
There it is. Okay, got it.
Oh, there my buddies talking to each other. Yeah, these guys. Yep.
All right.
It's a little outdated because AT retired at this point, but I can change it. But anyway, you can find the phone number's good and the email's good.
All right. Well, hey, Nancy, thank you so much for taking the time. And a wealth of information, and this is something I really hope that others can get onto. So at any rate, thanks everybody for joining us. And Nancy, thank you so much for all your expertise.
If you want me